What I'm going to do in this video is walk through a case study of a couple with $1 million in their 401ks combined, and I'm going to go step by step through their plan to help you uncover what you need to factor in for yourself so you can have an idea of what it takes for you to retire early. And I think what you'd be surprised to learn is that just a few small but important tweaks make a big difference in your ability to spend more than what you might think you can in retirement. So make sure you stick around to the end as we show them exactly what they could expect to spend. But the first step of the plan is always to start with the balance sheet. So let's meet Bill and Sarah. And of course, these are not real names. But as always, I want to start with the balance sheet. That way you can see their overall financial picture, at least for their plan. And I'm using round and general numbers, of course, for privacy. But like the title of the video suggests, they do have a little over $1 million in their 401ks. About 95% of their investments are in 401ks, by the way. Bill with $700,000 and Sarah with about $300,000 in her 401k. They also do have a small brokerage account of about $70,000 here as well, at least small compared to their 401ks. And lastly, you can see here as well, as far as other assets go, their home is valued around $900,000. And the only debt they do have is a mortgage of a little over $100,000. So this tells me I need to start thinking about how much I can generate in income for them if that's one of their largest assets, if their 401k is their largest asset. And by starting here, it'll help you understand what you need to be thinking about as you're going throughout the rest of the video. But the end goal when it comes to retirement is how much income can you safely create and how much do you need? But it doesn't matter how much you have if it's not going to cover expenses, which we're going to get to in a second. But next we need to figure out what other income sources outside of the portfolio will be part of their plan. Because the only way we can really work out if 1 million is enough is to factor in those other sources. So to just build in on what we're already factored in here, for them, they do have Social Security, and we can expect for Bill's future Social Security benefit is going to be around $3,200 per month, and Sarah's around $2,800 per month. And we're both going to assume that they're going to take their benefits at full retirement age. Now, I'm going to let you on a little secret. For most of you, the break even for Social Security, if you take it early versus delay it, is about age 80. So for them, they made the choice to delay it for that reason. I'm going to actually show you a little bit more why they did that later on. But if that's you, here's the best piece of advice I've ever heard on, the idea of when to claim it. And it's in order to maximize your lifetime benefits, delay taking Social Security, obviously, as long as possible, unless taking it sooner will significantly enhance how much you'll be able to enjoy your retirement. And at the end of the day, I can show you all the numbers, but if you feel like you're gonna better enjoy your retirement, then sure, why not take it early? But if you wanna maximize your benefits and you do have the portfolio to support it, why not delay it? So while you think about that, we're gonna talk about the next step of the plan. And here we're gonna build up a list of expenses that you have so that we can understand what you need in income to retire comfortably. This couple, we broke things down into their core living expenses, what they need to really be able to retire comfortably, as well as the variable expenses. Now, what's the difference? Well, the difference is that the core expenses are just what you spend on average each month to maintain your lifestyle, right? If things kind of go the same. Where your variable expenses are things that are going to change or go away, like goals and your mortgage and retirement. For them, they would want to spend about $5,000 per month to cover their core living expenses. And on top of that, we also factor in those other variable expenses that will ultimately change or go away in retirement. For example, like I mentioned, their mortgage, as well as some health insurance that's going to be a little bit costly before Medicare starts and after their COBRA expires through work. And that combined cost will be about $2,000 for them, the variable expense. And we're going to talk about how some of their goals, their bigger life goals, and how those costs might factor into their plan. So make sure you stick around for that. But if we factor in those two additional variable costs, their total expense need is around $7,000 per month on average to cover those initial years of retirement and before they reach Medicare age. So their expenses are going to clearly be a little bit more at the beginning of retirement. And we went through the details of their balance sheet, went into their Social Security, other income sources. Now let's put it all together. And we're going to investigate if they will be successful if they retire early, given the financials that we just went through. Firstly, if we look at some cash flow projections visually of what their plan looks like, straight away something is starting to jump out at me here. Each one of these blue bars is a year of their lives, and each bar also represents their total investment portfolio over time. So at the end of the year, they're going to be 61 years old, and we're going to start drawing down the portfolio, obviously, to cover their core living expenses and variable expenses. You can see their investable assets around $1.1 million if we also include their cash. And you can start to see the trajectory of their portfolio is going down. So let's look under the hood and see why that is. For the rest of the year, we're gonna have to withdraw around $67,000 from the portfolio. And next year, guess what? COBRA is gonna expire. So you can now have that additional insurance costs of the health premiums. You can see we're now at $90,000 here, and it continues to go up until they do get to Medicare. So if we go back to the chart here, we're going to see that the reason why there's this downward slope is because we're going to have to more heavily rely on the portfolio here. But you can see it starts to pick up again there, and now the upward slope starts. And if we can go back to the cash flows, some of you probably picked this up earlier, but once Medicare starts and once Social Security kicks in, that's going to cover a significant amount of their core living expenses, where now the portfolio is more there to supplement their income for some of the fun things like travel. So this is why you want to make sure you're really strategic about when you claim your benefits. Because yes, maybe if you did take it earlier, you might feel like you're going to not leave money on the table, but you can see, at least for their situation, by delaying it, they're able to lock in a higher benefit for the rest of their lives. And now they're far less reliant on markets and fluctuations on their portfolio later on when they're older. So now that we can cover their core living expenses, the mortgage, and also health insurance pretty comfortably here, and we see that this chart is pretty healthy throughout their lifetime, let's go ahead and take this one step further to really make sure that they're going to get the most out of their life with their money. And I don't want you to be in a position where, yeah, you can run these projections, things look great, but you're having regret down the line because you weren't able to spend what you really could. I want to help you have a plan that will give you the greatest retirement you can imagine. And I want to give you the confidence that, yes, go on that trip to support your family. You're going to be just fine. So after laying out this initial baseline, we're pretty confident, but let's go into the next step. Once the people I work with know their core living expenses are covered, we want to see what is possible to start spending more on the things you've been putting off, like traveling the world, or for them, they wanted to give money to their son for a nice down payment on a home. So the first thing we did after getting the base iteration of their plan started, we decided to test what would life look like if we traveled abroad every year. I told them to go crazy in this scenario, and they felt like they could do this maybe until age 80, maybe 75. So they wanted to see what it looks like if they spent an additional $30,000 per year, adjusted for inflation, on travel at least until age 80. They also have a son, and they wanted to give their brokerage account of $70,000 to their son to use towards a down payment on a home. And we ran this just to test it. And this is the go crazy plan. And the visuals change a bit, of course. And the gray area that you're seeing on screen now is the loss of portfolio value. And it still has assets lasting to about age 95. So looking at their assets doesn't quite give them like a level 10 confidence, even though very possible this could work. They still have their Social Security, of course, and the home. Obviously, they sell the home to rely on if things took a bad term, but they were dead set on gifting that down payment and wanted to test a little bit more of a middle of the road amount on travel. So we said, what would their plan look like if we wanted to spend an additional $20,000 per year on travel? And they pray that they can travel that much at 80, but agreed upon 75 at least from this perspective. So I will switch this over, and we can see their plan definitely looks a little bit better after adjusting for travel. At this point, they were projected to have around $400,000 left at the end of retirement at age 95. And they're also okay with using their home equity as a last resort, again, to pay for those expenses if needed. And this is a process we use for accumulation for clients, as well as just getting a baseline of what someone can look like, especially great for someone who's 10 years out or more from retirement. So this analysis really helped us see a lot of how things potentially go if they went as is. They just get the overall trend of their retirement. And this is the process we use just to get a baseline, get a trend of what retirement might look like. Say you're about to make a life-changing financial decision, like selling a business, starting a business, or selling property. This is a great tool for that. But this is not here for precisions. We're projecting out 30 plus years into the future. Getting a detailed plan on actually how you withdraw money is the next step, because life is not exactly linear. When the rubber meets the road and things don't go perfectly, you don't want to spend your portfolio down at the same level if you saw you were on the path of running out of money. And that's why there are limits to relying solely on these linear projections once you actually reach for retirement, you need to pair it with a dynamic withdrawal strategy, which we're going to get into right now. So this time, let's make this a little bit more dynamic, and this is where the magic is going to happen. And it's also going to help you avoid one of the biggest mistakes that people make when they retire early, and that is the retirement death spiral. And that's exactly when you decide to spend the same amount of money every year, like you say you're spending 4% every year, continue to adjust for inflation while your portfolio is dropping in value. This is how you end up having to, unfortunately, go back to work. So we assume all the same factors as before with the initial projections where they retire at 60. We also go through with the additional travel until 75, as well as the home down payment. What you want to do is that instead of seeing what level of spending will give you the highest level of success, like when you're accumulating money, you want to see what level of spending will cause you to have any sort of adjustment in income. What percentage of adjustment can we expect? So with our plan, as you can see, with the proper investment plan, we expect to spend roughly $8,300 in gross income from the portfolio each month. And that comes out to, after taxes, around $7,500 net. So here are 3 things we want to factor in when the rubber meets the road versus just a linear projection like we did earlier. Now, okay, we're starting to decumulate assets. Number 1 is if we look at their cash flow, once again, we can see that the portfolio withdrawals are going to be pretty heavy early on. And we can see that in 2030, they start Social Security. So what do? Well, again, we substantially want to cut down on portfolio spending when Social Security kicks in, where the portfolio is now a tool to help fund some of their goals outside of their core living expenses. And then secondly, we know that their expenses in retirement are going to change. We're going to factor in the go-go years, the slow-go years, and also the no-go years. You can see that their Social Security is going up with small inflation adjustments, but the portfolio need is pretty flat. And then it actually stops here at 80 because that's when the planned traveling expense will stop and their Social Security is going to just cover most of their needs, if not all of it. Thirdly, and this is what I believe to be most important, is having that dynamic withdrawal plan. For those of you that are already subscribed, you've probably heard me talk about this before, but for those of you new, number 1, hit the subscribe button. But I want to walk you through this. You have worked and you're used to budgeting. Maybe sometimes you get a bonus at work. You might be able to spend a little bit more, or you have a big expense come up, or things slow down the economy, and you have to tighten your belt. Now, why would retirement be any different? Why would you take the same exact amount from your portfolio when you hit a bump in the road in the market? That's where you can really spiral out of control because your portfolio is now dropping and you haven't adjusted your income. So how does this work in practice with the clients we work with? As you'll see here, if the portfolio were to drop by 20%, their income would need to drop by about $300, which is about a 5% reduction here. So not huge, but if your portfolio were to go up by 5%, we also want to give you an income bonus this month, right? This is why I tell my clients, hey, your portfolio has done well, you can go spend more. Whereas years like we saw in 2022, we want to tighten the belt a little bit, and we may have to slow down spending until we are in the clear. So you can now see that having a dynamic withdrawal plan can give you a lot more confidence into what you can realistically spend and also when you might need to adjust your spending. Using something as simple as a 4% rule, although is great for back of the napkin math, can lead you in a direction that maybe you're not prepared for. So this is why this is so important for your plan to be able to have a dynamic strategy that factors in taxes, inflation, adjusting your spending. All these variables can make a huge difference to help you have the best retirement possible. So I know retirement is a big decision. The stakes are a lot higher, and this is a lot of work to really get right. But if you do it right, your efforts will really pay off and you avoid some of the major mistakes. So here's what I tell people that reach out and they're thinking about an early retirement with the majority of their assets being in 401ks. And this is a piece of the process that we take our clients through when we look through their retirement plans. And number 1 is just to get organized. Now, not just your portfolio, but your expenses, your taxes, your insurance, your account statements, your Social Security statements. This is essential and really important to get together so you have a comprehensive look at what your financial picture looks like. Number 2, we want to have a dynamic withdrawal strategy. Now, we invest a lot of money into the systems and technology for creating retirement income for people, and this is why people hire us. But if you are doing your own retirement planning, at least create a plan where you are willing to be flexible and able to cut back on spending during a bear market so you reduce the risk of running out of money. And then number 3, you need to have a rock solid investment plan in place. When I'm building out a portfolio for early retirement, I want to make sure you have enough income set aside in a safer bucket. So when, not if, markets have a correction during your 30, 40 plus year retirement, you don't have to worry about it. And what we know is that market corrections happen about every 4 to 5 years, and they last on average about every 15 months or so. But that's the average. What happens if you decide to retire early and a tech bubble or a 2008 type recession occurs? That's why we want to set aside what we call that war chest of cash and bonds that will be there for you, so you don't have to sell from those long-term assets like stocks. So these are just 3 of the top ones that you can start to think about. Probably for most of you, your biggest source of income is going to be your investments if you are going to retire early. And the stakes are a lot higher when you invest for retirement because you really don't want to have to go back to work. So you should definitely watch this video next, where I share a case study of a $3 million investment portfolio and actually walk you through the steps of constructing a portfolio for an early retirement, because understanding how you optimize your asset allocation is critical, especially if you want to consistently generate income for the next 40 to 50 years of retirement. And you should know that these steps that I will share in that video apply to you whether you have $500,000, $1 million, or even $10 million. The principles will still apply. Once again, this is Matt Calcagno. I'm a certified financial planner and advisor over here at 1 Degree Advisors. If you'd like to talk to me or someone on my team about putting together a custom early retirement plan for you, you can click the link in the description. We'd be happy to talk with you. And thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.